Hi, welcome to our Box Guitar Tuition. So my classic album inspection today is celebrating Deep Purple's Burn, released today, February 15th, 1974, 50 years ago. So this album's a really important album in the Deep Purple canon because it's the Mark III lineup. Hard to sort of believe that they could survive the loss of Ian Gillan and Roger Glover, certainly Ian Gillan, one of the all-time great rock singers and probably the singer responsible for a lot of the kind of screamy style that will be adopted by hard rock and metal singers. But they took a massive bold move. They got in two singers. They got in Glenn Hughes from Trapeze on bass and vocals, and then an unknown guy from Redcar, which is actually quite sort of near to where I live, County Durham, David Coverdale. So I'm going to put my cards on the table. When I was a nipper, it was always the perceived wisdom that the Mark II Deep Purple was the sort of classic lineup, and of course that's the one that reformed for the Perfect Strangers album. We had the Deepest Purple compilation, and it had Burn on and Stormbringer, but it was mainly, the Gillan stuff. So that sort of idea bore fruit. But I feel now when you go back and listen to his albums, there's just something really, really special and slick and classy about the Mark III lineup. I think that finds its place on Burn. At the time when I was getting into rock, Machine Head and In Rock were the classic Deep Purple albums. People didn't talk about Burn, but this is a long time ago. This is like over 40 years ago. Since then, there's a period of evaluation has taken place. I think Burn is very much in the mix as not only a great Deep Purple album, but a great hard rock album of its time. I think perhaps the other thing with this album is, it has two classic tracks, one real classic and then one kind of live classic. Whereas, Machine Head's got Highway Star, Space Truckin' Lazy. In rock, of course, Black Knight's not on it, but it's kind of later editions. You've got Child in Time on that, Speed King. This is one of those albums where it kind of didn't suffer, but it doesn't have those immediately as recognisable tracks, but it's very, very well done. Let's have a look at it. First thing, in the production on this, Martin Birch gets a nice kind of clean sound. The snare could do a bit more balls. We'll actually compare that to the next album, which we'll do a bit on. But all the band is there's a lot of clarity there. I think the thing with this as well is that every band member is absolutely on top of their game. So Richie Blackmore, there's not kind of guitar solos like Highway Star or Child in Time, but he puts in a really mature performance, some lovely slide work on Mistreated, and I think it's Sail Away. Don't quote me there, I'm trying to remember. Glenn Hughes' bass is, it's in there. John Lord does great, uses some interesting sounds, developing his colour palette with his keyboards, and of course he does some fantastic neoclassical flourishes. And Ian Pace is just in incendiary form. I would say Ian Pace, this is his greatest performance as a drummer on this album. Then you've got Coverdale and Hughes, who just basically riff off each other. There's this kind of competition, but you can see there's no ego. They're obviously friends. They harmonise together. For Coverdale, it must have been nice. It's like he gets a break. He can sing something. Oh, Glenn's doing this bit. Amazing. So really that aspect of it is illustrating the title track, Burn, probably one of the greatest Deep Purple songs, maybe the greatest actually. The band, this again, what I was saying about the whole band being at the top of the game, this track illustrates that. The vocals are fantastic by Coverdale and Hughes. The way Hughes comes in on the kind of bridge. Amazing. Blackmore does a fantastic solo with that great open string lick, At this period, at this point in time, Richie Blackmore, although he comes off the back of the era of Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page and that, he's really a 1970s guy. He doesn't really find his feet until 1970 in Rock album. So he's in a transitionary period really between the 60s British blues boom players, and what was to come, which would be Michael Shangouli, John Roth, Brian May, the American guitarists like Ronnie Montrose, Ted Nugent, and so on. He's fantastic here. Obviously the vocals have said fantastic. John Lord does a great keyboard solo, and obviously there's a great harmony parts with Richard Blackmore. But the man of the match on this track is Ian Pace with his fantastic drum work on this. Those frenzied drum fills on this were something I loved listening to when I was a kid. I think I always preferred Ian Pace to John Bonham and Ginger Baker, Bill Ward, because he was kind of faster up top. He doesn't necessarily have the power of those players, certainly not the power of John Bonham or Bill Ward, but I don't know, he just had a kind of along that Mitch Mitchell thing, I think. Fantastic 6-minute track, you know, a little mini epic, really cool lyrics as well. Again, Blackmore's influence there, I guess, maybe inspiring the you know, Coverdale Hughes to write, you know, about like a witch, to write a kind of fantasy lyric, and this is where a kind of tension will come in, I guess, later on, and Richard Blackmore will go because he wants a different sort of visual palette for his music. Great track. Next track is Might Just Take Your Life. So, really good track. It's kind of got a Woman from Tokyo feel, but lovely keyboard part. Great vocal. Glenn Hughes, you know, there's just that white soul thing, really cool. Then you got Lay Down, Stay Down, which is really good, really catchy. And then side one on the original album finishes with Sail Away. These tracks are 6 minutes, 4:15, 5:48 on side one. So quite epic. The album's 41 minutes and 37. Sail Away is really good. A great drum part on the chorus by Ian Pace. Quite interesting. The chorus kind of drops down from the verse and bridge a bit, and then Pace kind of switches feel between two feels. So just really subtle performance. Very good. Kind of, you can hear that Stevie Wonder, boom, bam, boom, bam, bam, you know, and this is something that will start to creep into Purple, is the Stevie Wonder influence, which I suspect, although this is written by Blackmore Coverdale, you know, the Coverdale will have liked a lot of soul, probably Motown stuff, and of course Glenn Hughes, big Stevie Wonder fan. Then you've got You Fool No One opening side. This has got a great groove. Again, the band, you know, firing on all six. Great harmony vocals on this. Nice Dorian mode vibe to this on the melody. Great vocals from Glenn Hughes and David Coverdale. And then I suppose the next track's a lesser track, but it's really good. What's Going On Here? What's going on here? Again, it's got kind of strange kind of woman sort of feel. Again, really cool vocals. Really nice guitar, bluesy guitar from Richard Blackmore. We always forget what a really great kind of blues feel Blackmore's got. And it's that sweetness, you know, he's very accurate, Blackmore, you know, to play that strat for a Marshall, you know, remember he doesn't have the humbuckers of Jimmy Page, you know. By that point Jimmy Page probably playing a Les Paul, and of course Jeff Beck by this point is probably on a Les Paul. He is. So, you know, again, Blackmore getting that control and that kind of sweet kind of nasally tone he gets, really lovely. But it's a really good track. And then Mistreated, which is a live classic, which is always used to stretch out on. Great vocal by Coverdale, you know, his sort of showstopper on this album. You know, on this album, you know, this is before Coverdale. We forget what a great, you know, Coverdale's hitting some top of notes sort of to get in Hughes' range on this, but he's quite happy to sort of just stay down a little bit a lot of the time. Obviously more in the Paul Rodgers vibe, which is what Richard Blackmore kind of wanted, really. I think he wanted Paul Rodgers, you know, to try and maybe sing for Purple, or Paul Rodgers style singer. And this is obviously before Coverdale, you know, we know him as the guy going, ah! You know, getting progressively higher as the 80s went on. But it's great, it's very, very easy to listen. He really is one of the all-time great singers, Coverdale, as is Hughes. Although Hughes can tend to showboat more his range. You know, Coverdale's a very listenable singer, he's very palatable. But Mistreated's got a lovely middle section, lovely slide guitar, again by Blackmore. Again, Blackmore's take on the slide guitar is interesting. Like Michael Schenker, he sort of plays really sweet melodies. He's not kind of doing the open blues kind of thing that a lot of guitarists would do. And then he just has lovely harmony parts as well. He'll do that throughout Rainbow. So really off the bat, it's just got 7 really great tracks. I don't like the last track, A200. It's a weird instrumental. It's got quite odd keyboard sounds. It feels a bit of an afterthought. You know, they probably could have lost this track. I don't know, this may be sacrilege. You know, you still have, you know, Deep Purple albums, Machine Head in Rock only have 7 tracks. You know, the album still would have been, what, if I take 3 minutes 51 off, it still would have been over 37 minutes, so still like a reasonable length. Or maybe they could have come up with another track. It's not an interesting track, it's weird, but it's just after that run of lovely vocal tracks, it's just not something I need. So like after this, Purple would do the Stormbringer album, and you've got to hand it to him, that came out in 74. Let's just have it, it's November 74, I think. Yeah, November 16th, 74. I nearly considered reviewing this album as well. And again, you know, Purple producing a classic album and a quality album in one space of a year. Not 2 classic albums, not like Miara Heat Managed or Saxon and Judas Priest. This album, the snare's a bit beefier, but a bit dead, you know. It would have been good if they could have kind of combined the 2 snare kind of sounds together almost, of the Burn and Stormbringer for the ultimate sound. This is where the straw that breaks the camel's back for Blackmore, Coverdale and Hughes' kind of funk and soul influences come to fruition. You know, Stormbringer, like the opening track, you know, you've got your fantasy lyrics, you've got your cool sort of use of like, really Blackmore's kind of, with this track, with the lyrics and what the scale choices use on the solo, you can hear it's a precursor to Rainbow. So just say a riff like Sail Away as well, you've almost got that Man on the Silver Mountain groove as well, going back to Burner. Love Don't Mean a Thing is the next track, and that's again, it's just a bit too kind of funky soul. Holy Man, not a typical Deep Purple track, but very good, very good Hughes vocal, but again written by Coverdale Hughes. Lord, no contribution from Blackmore on that. And again, Hold On, Coverdale Hughes, Lord Pace, no contribution from Blackmore. Again, Hold On, it's a bit funky. So side ones, you know, half really on Stormbringer. When you get on the side 2, you get Lady Double Dealer, which is really good. You Can't Do It Right with The One You Love, which is a really funky track. Can't do it right with the one you love, which is really good. It's got a really good groove. You got Highball Shooter, which is like a good rocker, kind of like a White Snake up-tempo track. And then The Gypsy, which is a really, really good track. And then finishing with one of the, bookended really, the song with one of the great Deep Purple tracks, A Soldier of Fortune. This found its way onto the reissue of Deepest Purple. Quite rightly so. So, you know, I did mark Burn out of 10. I think Burn's kind of close to a 9 out of 10. Certainly an 8.5 for me. I think this album, it's a kind of 7.5. You know, yeah, some people might give it an 8. You know, I don't feel the songs are quite as strong, you know. But it is a good record. But like I say, it would see the departure of Richie Blackmore. So yeah, that's my review of Burn by Deep Purple. Definitely for me the best Deep Purple album. A classic rock album from the era of classic rock, really. You know, when heavy rock and rock is still like before the genres, you know. Later on, you know, we'll get heavy metal and we'll get genre splitting. Okay, so remember, share and subscribe. I'll see you again soon for another classic album inspection, and thank you very much.